Yes, guys, what's happening? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to tonight's stream. I don't even know where to start, to be honest, as it finished Chelsea 2, Arsenal 4 at Stamford Bridge. And welcome back, Charity FC. Arsenal, don't worry. You lost 3 in a row, season's faltering away. Please come on down to Stamford Bridge and make yourselves welcome. And take 3 points, because that's what it was today. It was a charity FC. I know Easter's just been over the weekend, but it was it was terrible. Arsenal, help yourself to 3 points, get them in that Easter basket, and off you go. I mean, I honestly don't know where to start. Shocking from back to front today. Mendy, awful. The defense was dreadful. Christensen's in Barcelona already. Sarr had an absolute shocker. Kante was awful. Lukaku, dreadful. I don't know what we're going to do about him moving forwards. Werner, he tried. Mount did okay. But it's just not good enough. Not good enough. Where was the fight? Where was the desire? We can mock Arsenal, but actually the fact of the matter is they wanted this. They wanted this much more than we did. And it was evident, it was evident that they wanted this more than us. And I just don't know. I just don't know what to say at all on this. It's just really, really difficult. It was awful. We just didn't want. There's no desire. I just don't know what to say at all. It's just not good enough, and the home form has been absolutely awful this season. I don't know. I don't know where to start with that. It is an interesting one. It really is. I don't know what to say. George, I've sent you the link, mate. It's gone to your email. So yeah, come in and we'll get you on, mate. So I've sent you that link via email. So come and join me. Awful, really bad. Tuchel, I've got to be honest. I understand that. Look, we've played a lot of games. The schedule, we've played the most games out of anyone. Arsenal, in the time that we've played, Real Madrid, Palace in the cup, and obviously Brentford as well. I think. We've Arsenal played once against Southampton. That's not an excuse, though. This is an important game. We need to secure that top 4 as soon as possible. We don't want to be dragged into a scrap for the top 4 with those shitters: Tottenham, Arsenal, Man United. And I just don't know what happened tonight. I really don't. It just from the off, it looked awful. Here he is. Let's bring him in now, mate. Not nice to have you on. What's going on? What was that? It was an utter shower of shit from the lads tonight. Awful. I was just saying, mate. Obviously, Arsenal. The schedule is, look, we've played a lot of matches. And that's not an excuse, because you want to be a successful club. You want to go far in all the competitions. You're going to have a lot of games. But having said that, since we've played Real Madrid, Palace, and then obviously this game, in that time, Arsenal have had 1 game against Southampton. That is going to make a difference. It's not an excuse, but it probably is going to make a difference. I understand Tuchel made changes tonight, but why wasn't Thiago Silva starting? He played, about 15, 20 minutes in the Cup on the weekend? Surely he should be starting. Sarr, Rudiger was obviously, I know he picked up a bit of a knock in the FA Cup, but he carried on. That was obviously, he had to miss out. But yeah, defensively, we were just all over the shop. I just don't know what was going on. I understand why Reece James has been playing at right centre back. Tuchel explained, it's less physically taxing on him as he comes back from injury. But by doing that, we take away one of our biggest attacking outlets. He can still get forward, but he can't get forward like he does in right wing back. And it just doesn't look the same. But I mean, mate, what are your thoughts on that? A really disappointing evening, and really, Arsenal humiliated us. And the fact that they've lost 3 on the spin and they just come to us and basically just turn us over like we're nothing. It was disgraceful tonight. It really was.
Yeah, I mean, watching the game, it was we looked totally lethargic, out of ideas. I think that the starting lineup has to be questioned by Thomas Tuchel for sure. With the team selection there, I'm not sure why Silva wasn't starting. Ultimately, I know people say that Arsenal humiliated us, but I think we were still in the game. We still scored 2 goals.
I mean, we gifted them. We gifted them. Well, 2 goals, definitely.
2 goals, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 3 if you give the pen as well. I mean,
oh yeah, of course, yeah. So we've gifted them 3 goals. I know you've still got to score the pen, but we've definitely gifted them 2. But I mean, what do you think was wrong tonight? Why are we not? Why are we not up for a London derby? I know, like, this is obviously a bigger game for Arsenal than it is for us, but this is at Stamford Bridge. This, like, we shouldn't be questioning the players' desire and how they approach the game. There's only looked like that one side wanted to win it, and that's a little bit concerning.
yeah, but I've said it before this season. I think that at this stage of the season, it can be difficult. It can be difficult to motivate yourself when we're in a position where third is pretty secure and we can't go up. We can't win the league. We can't compete, and then we've got really no ultimate fear of dropping outside the top 4. So, look, I get it, and I'm not saying there was a lack of desire on the pitch today, because I still saw things. I mean, if you want to talk about lack of desire, you just had to watch United yesterday. Yeah. So I think we still saw bits of the game that were decent tonight. But ultimately, Arsenal have got more to play for. I'm not saying that that's an excuse, but when you get to the tail end of the season and you realise, you're playing these games when really we would just ideally like to get to that FA Cup final as soon as possible, and everyone get a well-earned rest. I think you said to me a few days ago that we're a couple of games shy of playing, the maximum amount of games you can possibly play in a season, which not a lot of teams do. So I think the Super Cup, the World Club Championship, it has taken it a little bit out of the legs. But ultimately, I've got to blame Tuchel for this one. I thought the balance of the team, the starting 11 was not on, and I know there were individual errors, but Christensen,
his head's in Barcelona. He's on the beach in Barcelona already. I don't know what he was doing.
I don't know what he was doing.
I really don't.
Why he's trying to pass that back on a half volley with the risk involved of, if you don't get solid contact on that ball, you're either going to end up falling over, or the lack of pace of it towards the goalkeeper. I don't know why he just doesn't take an extra touch there. But he was, apart from James, and maybe he was probably the most experienced player in that back line. So that's scary to start off a game when you're, him out of Sarr, Alonso, everyone else. You're thinking the best of that. Who's leading that back line?
Well, no one really.
No, and I'm watching the highlights now, and just the amount of errors at the back.
Mate, it was honestly. I played 6-a-side tonight. There was less defensive errors in that game than there were tonight from Chelsea. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, we've been so solid for so much of the season, yet in our last 3 home games, we've shipped 11 goals: 4 against Brentford, 3 against Real Madrid, and another 4 tonight. That's not acceptable. And, it's the first time in over 20 years we've lost 3 consecutive home games. I just wanted to bring up a little stat on the screen, mate. I just wanted to get into it a little bit more depth and your thoughts on why are we suddenly so bad at Stamford Bridge? Since the start of last season, mate, we've played 34 games there, won 16, drawn 11, lost 7. We've got less than a 50% win rate at the Bridge. That's awful. That's not good enough.
No, it's not. Mate, we've never seen this, certainly when we started.
What do you think's happened to our form at the Bridge? Because you look back at it, we had 85, 86 games unbeaten under Mourinho at Stamford Bridge. Phenomenal record there. Stamford Bridge too easy now for away teams to come to. I mean, what do you think's happened to our home form? Because realistically, we're like in the league, mate. We're second, just only behind Manchester City in away form. Yet home form, we're like down in 8th or 9th place this season on home form alone. If the league was just on home form, we'd be 8th. That's not good enough. Why do you think we're struggling so much at the Bridge?
I don't know the answer to that question. I really don't. It's been a place since we've started supporting Chelsea, a solid foundation and where we build our season from. And now all of a sudden I know it goes in cycles. You can't always be dominant at home. You are going to lose matches eventually, and we've been very blessed to be so good at home, and obviously the upside is the away form has improved, but we've done the hard bit by getting the away results, and then we go at home and it's take this one out of the equation, but it was the draws to Burnley, and it's just not good enough. I mean, the draw to United when they've been playing so poor this season. Arsenal, I mean, we should be beating Arsenal at home. I know they've got some talented players and can beat anyone on their day, but yeah, ultimately it's cost us, mate. We had a discussion last night, didn't we, about I still don't think Chelsea are that far away. I think that the 2 teams, yes, Liverpool and City, have the brand of football they play is amazing and they've set new heights, but we're not that far away. I mean, if we had James and Chilwell fit for the season and, we turn a few of those draws into victories, we're in the title race.
We'd be closer, but again, it's all ifs and buts. The fact of the matter is we haven't done it. That's the reality. Look, I don't think we're that far away, but I still think we're quite a way off. Like, considering our points totals compared to what the points total is going to be to win the league, like, I think we're still a way off. And I just wanted to talk to you about squad depth. At the start of the season, me and you both saying like, oh, this squad's phenomenal. One of the best Chelsea squads we've ever seen in our time supporting the club. The more the season's gone on, I think the idea of squad depth is an absolute myth. I really do. I don't think there's actually that good a depth in the squad. I really don't. Like, you look at it and you think some areas are reasonably well stocked. Other areas have got no depth whatsoever. Let's be honest, there's no depth in central midfield at all. There's none. Like, how many times this season have actually Kante, Jorginho, Kovacic and Ruben all been fit at the same time? Virtually none. There's no depth in the wing-back areas. We can't be in 2022 and we're still playing Alonso and Azpilicueta as wing-backs. Like, that's not good enough. And I know it's easy to say in hindsight, we should have gone and got someone in January. But we probably should have done. Like, do you know what I mean? This left wing-back situation now has been Alonso's having to play every week. Yes, he's put in some good performances. He was awful tonight. But, mate, what do you think of the squad depth? I mean, have you kind of changed your opinion on it? And actually the squad perhaps isn't as good as we think it is. Or we thought it was.
Well, maybe I'm a bit too biased and a bit fickle, but I still do believe that the squad depth is decent at Chelsea. I still think it matches Liverpool's. Again, like you said, mate, summed it up perfectly. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, and it's easy to slate the squad when we've just been battered at home in a freak result. But you only have to go back less than a week ago where we've turned over Real Madrid in their own stadium with a squad that Loftus-Cheek starting in that 11, Timo Werner starting in that 11. I don't think many teams could go there and do that with the squad that we had, not even having Chilwell, players that were missing. Look at the goalkeeper situation. Mendy wasn't great tonight. We can put Kepa in there, just as good, if not, a number one anywhere else. I don't think it's as bad as people think. I just think that we haven't sussed the marriage of positions that work together. I don't think Loftus-Cheek and Kante can play together. I think Kante's much better when he's got a Jorginho, Kovacic by him. And it's similar up top. We've got plenty of attacking options, but none of them are firing in terms of goals returned. So then you look, it's producing the results on the pitch. It's not just about, you can have the greatest squad depth, but people need to be taking responsibility. And again, I hate to scapegoat Lukaku all the time on the channel, mate, but come on, he's starting up front today. He's got to make a statement and do something. And he's, again, just walking around. All right,
it wasn't good enough. It wasn't good enough from him. 100% not good enough, and has to do better. And the body language not acceptable tonight. Really, really poor. But what I will say is, like, he's an easy target. But let's make no mistake about it. He wasn't the reason we didn't win tonight. Yes, he could have contributed more, but he wasn't the reason we defended so badly. So. It's an interesting. Obviously, we've agreed on the lineup. We felt that obviously Kai Havertz can't play every game. I felt Lukaku was going to start this game, and that was ultimately right. I don't think that was a wrong decision as such. You've got to rotate players. It's the whole point of having a squad. We've got a lot of games coming up. You've got to rotate players. Mount and Werner definitely deserve to start. It was obviously going to be Kante and Loftus-Cheek in the middle. And I think the only issues I had were realistically, why was Sarr playing and why was Christensen playing? Those were the only two that I had the problem with. The rest of it was like, okay, yeah, that's fair enough, for sure. Why do you think Trevor Chalobah's not playing? We've got Andreas Christensen playing, who doesn't want to be at the club, is leaving. Malang Sarr, who's been useful this season, but let's be honest, is probably not really Chelsea quality. And like, obviously, Rudiger out. I don't understand what's happened to Chalobah. Why is he not playing? I mean, why did Thiago Silva didn't start tonight? I mean, those are the baffling decisions for me, and I'd love to hear what Tuchel says about them.
Yeah, I haven't heard him come out and say anything yet, but I agree, mate. I think, going back to your original point about Lukaku, I actually thought that was a good tactical decision, considering he played quite well in the away match. And he again, think Arsenal struggle with physical presence at the top end. We saw that with Drogba throughout all those years. So I thought that was a good decision. Again, obviously hindsight's a wonderful thing, but I don't blame him for that one. And, the rest picked itself based on form. But then you look at the back and you just think, why? I mean, we don't know. There could be individual circumstances, illness, whatever. But I just don't understand how Thiago Silva's not starting that game as a bit of protection for... Because I think Sarr and Christensen play a lot better when you've just got someone of Silva's ilk playing in the middle, just controlling the pace and the, taking that leadership at the back. I think if they're all playing without a leader at the back, you saw what happened tonight, just absolute chaos. No one knows who's leading the line. No one knows what they're supposed to be doing with the ball. Can't recycle it properly. Taking too many touches. And I think the decision to leave him out, and like you said, Chalobah not even getting a look in, really did surprise me tonight.
I think I've got to be honest, mate. I think tonight highlighted two worrying things, both to do with Rudiger. If that's what a Rudiger-less Chelsea is going to look like, then it's a big concern going forward. And I think you underestimate, when he's not there, how much work he does on that left-hand side, helping Alonso out. He does so much. Tonight, Sarr was not at it, and you could just see that, both him and Alonso were so poor tonight. And Rudiger makes a big, big difference on that left-hand side. And he almost, covers up for a lot of the errors that Alonso makes. And you don't really think about it because he's there to deal with it. When he's not there, that left-hand side was dreadful tonight. Absolutely awful. So, yeah, that was a problem in itself. But, yeah, I mean, it's 3 home games in a row, mate. And it's so many defensive errors in all of those games. Brentford littered with them. Madrid littered with errors. And this one littered with errors. What do you put a lack of concentration down to at the back? Because we've been so solid for so much of the season. And yet, these last 3 home games, we're making errors all over the place.
Nice. I think confidence has a lot to play in football. And, when you're winning games and keeping clean sheets, you're on top of the world and feel like you can't make any mistakes. Then all of a sudden you lose a game of football, you lose quite heavily. And then all of a sudden the doubt starts to creep in and people start to make individual errors like you saw today. That was nothing that you could, plan for. Tuchel's put that side out and, the tone is set from Christensen. I don't know what, individual decision-making and mistakes costing the team. And then, the whole team is then heads down, not sure what to do, panicking. And it just creates a ripple effect of doubt. And again, I just bring it back to, I think some players are already away on holiday because there's nothing to fight for in the league. I think everyone's got one eye on the FA Cup final, and that's what our season is now poised on. And the league, bar the absolute disaster of losing pretty much all our games, we're still going to finish inside the top 4. So I think we are. Well, I think this is the first of 50-50 results to come towards the end of the season. I think we're still going to have a few more of these, unfortunately.
I mean, Tuchel just coming in now saying, I think, and fair play to him, we always praise him for being honest. I mean, he's saying we need to have the tactics right. It's doubtful if I had this right, and you need the team selection right. It's doubtful I got that right as well. So I think he's holding his hands up tonight, saying that he got it wrong. And that's great. But for as good as he's been since he's been here, that's 2 of the last 3 home games. He's got it completely wrong. Brentford and this one, totally wrong. Obviously, it's not panic stations or anything, but it's a little bit concerning for me that we're letting in so many goals at the moment and there's so many individual errors. And as a manager, you can't do anything about that. I don't know. You can't do anything on the training ground how to stamp out individual errors. It's just one of those things on the night. But it's a big concern. And these last few home games have reminded me of the kind of the dark days under Lampard, where we'd just be making mistakes every single game defensively. And we've got to eliminate that as soon as possible, because that we don't want that to become a habit and start settling in and becoming a regular occurrence. But I mean, back to the game itself, mate. Obviously, Eddie Nketiah starting up front for Arsenal. Guy's not scored a Premier League goal all season. Comes to Stamford Bridge, turns into prime Mbappe and scores twice. And he was like turning our defenders for fun. It's ridiculous. It was a full charity FC on show tonight from us. First goal, mate. Obviously, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, look, he loses the ball on the edge of the Arsenal area. Okay, not great, but not a disaster. It's a hopeful ball over the top. It's not going anywhere. And Christensen, inexplicably, the half volley, we've discussed that, we're 1 down. Shocking. Individual error, okay, it happens, but it's happening too many times for us at the moment. Just very briefly, do you think we'll see Christensen in a Chelsea shirt again this season?
Well, I think it's a very bold statement to bring him off at half time. When you don't change your back line unless it's either gone disastrously wrong or there's an injury, and he certainly wasn't injured. So,
no.
I'd be very surprised unless we get another injury that he comes back in the fold. And I think he'll certainly not be at Chelsea next season. I can't see it.
No, there's no. He's definitely gone. He's done. But anyway, we pretty much hit back straight away. And it's some great work from Ruben Loftus-Cheek, wins the ball on the edge of the area, plays in Timo Werner. And all right, the goal's a bit lucky, but Werner has been so unlucky throughout his Chelsea career. The amount of goals he's had ruled out for offside, the amount of things that haven't dropped for him. Now that he's in a little bit of good form, the last 3 games, carry it on to this one, 4 games. That shot a few months ago wouldn't have gone anywhere near the goal. The deflection would have taken it wide or it would have gone into the keeper's hands. But he gets his slice of luck. And George, how delighted are you for him at the moment? That, all right, look, let's make no mistakes that that's 10 Premier League goals in virtually 2 seasons. The return for the £50 million and the 270k a week, that we haven't got value for money out of this signing. But having said that, talking in the present, his last 4 games, including tonight, have been very promising.
Yeah, well, mate, you know me personally. I'm a huge fan of Timo Werner. I've been, an advocate of his since he joined the club because I see the potential and I see the work rate, and he works incredibly hard. And if anyone deserves a bit of fortune, it's him. And you could even see the crowd were really getting behind him tonight, and he was making things happen. Even his confidence when he's dribbling with the ball, going past players, his decision making is a bit sharper. And I really do see potential there. Dare I say it, give him one more season. But I really do think he's got a lot to offer Chelsea. I know the return's not been good enough, goal wise, or even assist wise. But he does put in a shift, and yeah, I was impressed with his performance tonight. I think he was one of those players that had a good game today, despite a very bad performance overall.
Yeah, I mean, we get ourselves back into it, and then we go down again. And look, don't get me wrong, this is a good team goal from Arsenal. Fair play to them. They work it nicely. Saka, Smith Rowe, Odegaard, etc. It's worked well. But George, from your perspective, mate, do you think we can do better defensively there? I think Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was saying at half-time, Loftus-Cheek just gets caught slightly napping at the crucial moment. But I mean, it's a great goal, and fair play to Arsenal. It's a nice move. But do you think we could have done a little bit better there to stop that from happening?
I think that's probably the one goal that I look at, and I don't really blame the defence. I mean, maybe you could argue that Loftus-Cheek gets a bit caught out a little bit too easily, but it's still a great finish from Smith Rowe. And I don't know, that was probably the one goal where I was like, fair enough from Arsenal. They worked that well, and that can happen. It's the other ones that are just, particularly the one you're going to come on to. I mean, we had 2, 3, 4 chances to get the ball away, and just every time just mess it up.
We were playing pinball for that one. But obviously we get unfortunately we go down. What's this? Just Joe D in the chat. The lack of tracking back. Yeah, we just covered that, Ruben, for the second. Yeah, he could. Yeah, look, it's so hard to say, but he definitely could have probably put a bit more effort in to try. I'm not saying he would have got back, but maybe he could have tried a bit harder in an attempt to get back. But it's just one of those things. But anyway, George, we get ourselves back into it before half-time. Azpilicueta popping up in the box with a nice goal and an assist for Mason Mount. And we're heading towards that 30 goal and assists combined for the season, which would be a phenomenal return from him and a top player. We don't need to say too much about him, but it's a nice ball into the box. It's a good finish from Aspie of all people as well. You don't really, associate with him getting himself into the box, but it's a nice finish. And George, at 2-2 at half-time, what are you thinking second half? Like, what are your thoughts at the break? Kind of like, shit, it's not been great, but we're still in this.
Yeah, I thought it was incredibly messy, but we're in the game. We've scored 2 goals, and we've got ourselves back in a reset position where we just got to make sure that the second half is not a repeat of the first half. So that's where it's even more disappointing, because we've come into the second half and played, well, even worse than the first half.
Terrible.
Which is, it's unforgivable really when you've done so well to stay in the game despite being poor, to then come out after a team talk and play even worse. That's where Chelsea really shocked me tonight.
I mean, do you think that What was I going to say? Sorry, I'm just getting up now. Tuchel on the Christensen substitution. He's actually saying that he was injured. So supposedly, I mean, I don't know if that's true or not. I'll just bring the quote up on the screen now, saying that he said he couldn't continue. He had some problems. It's a very, very difficult pitch here. It's not to our favour. The ball bounces awkwardly. So he said he couldn't continue. Does that mean he was injured, or do you think that means I'm having a shocker, get me off? Like, what are your thoughts on that? That's a very strange, like, sort of thing to say. It's a very difficult pitch here. It's not to our favour. The ball bounces awkwardly. Almost sounds like some of the excuses you come up with, like when you're playing on the PlayStation, you're playing in the playground or whatever. That's a little bit odd. That. I mean, what do you make of all that?
I think he's trying to protect the player a little bit with a deflection tactic, to whether he's forgiving the goal or I don't know. But there's got to be a conversation where Christensen's come in at halftime and said, look, either his head's not in the right position, he feels like he's going to make more errors, or he's using excuses that he's picked up a little knock as the result of playing poorly, and Tuchel's made the decision to bring him off. But I think regardless, something needed to change. So
yeah,
I think it was the right decision to bring on Silva anyway. But I don't know. That's a very odd one. I feel like he's protecting him slightly there.
Yeah, I mean, could be reading too much into this, but I think there's, I don't know. That just doesn't quite sit right with me. It doesn't seem right, that. But yeah, anyway, interesting explanation there. But George, second half, obviously, Thiago Silva comes on. You think the defence would be a little bit more steady, a bit more tight? It wasn't. Nketiah, this third goal is the worst of the lot, in my opinion. Obviously, I know the big individual mistake from Christensen was poor, but this, from a team perspective, was shocking. The amount of times we had to clear that ball, it's just pinging around between Silva, between Sarr. I mean, and Nketiah obviously finally puts it in. But I mean, George, that was an absolute mess, that third goal.
It's terrible. And sometimes you watch professional football and they are amazing, in tight spaces, and they practice it day in, day out, triangles and working it through tight space. But sometimes you've just got to get rid of the ball and do the basics. Like if you're not sure, someone get a foothold of it and get it away. And 2 or 3 swipes at it, getting the ball back and then trying to dribble it out. It's just, and at the top level, you get punished if you start messing around with it in the area. We saw it throughout the whole game. Mendy playing a side foot pass straight out into for a throw in because there was no options, rather than just booting it up the field. Again, the individual mistake for the first goal, Christensen, either a simple pass back or just take a touch and look for a ball. He's just like, some of the decision making from these professionals, sometimes it's almost like they have to do something extraordinary and to keep the ball possession wise, rather than just thinking, right, let's get it clear, reset. And it cost us.
And that was game done as far as I was concerned in terms of the win. As soon as that third goal goes in and we're 3-2 down, in my opinion, there was no way we were winning that game. We could have got a 3-3 potentially, but let's be honest, mate, with 3-2 down, I can't remember us creating a chance to score after we went 3-2 down. There was nothing. There was really nothing. Havertz came on. All right, he wasn't on for a long time, but didn't really offer anything. Ziyech came on, offered nothing. And that was it. We offered nothing in that second half going forward whatsoever. And that was a bit of a concern for me. Were you concerned as to why we obviously haven't gone 3-2 down? Didn't seem to be a lot of urgency in the play. And we, from what I can remember, and you might be able to correct me, we didn't create no chances.
No, I can't remember a single chance really. And I think we're a team that are great when we're in front in games. I think when we're chasing, we know the problems going forward and the lack of creativity in goals. So it's always difficult for us. And that's where we are far away, because I think on any given day, Chelsea can beat anyone,
100%,
as proven at the Bernabeu. But consistently, we can't string 38 games together to go on and win a title. When games like this, we just struggle to create and come back into games. If City were 3-2 down against Arsenal in exactly the same position, not playing well, you'd still expect them to create 6, 7, 8 chances. We just don't have the capability to do that. Well, I'm not saying we don't have the capability, because there is potential there, but this season, like you said, mate, when we conceded the third goal, it was going to be very unlikely that we were going to win the game, and that sums up, a team that we're just not consistent enough.
Yeah, no, we're not. It's as simple as that. And as I touched on earlier, our away form is phenomenal this season, only second to Man City. It's the home form that's letting us down. And we've dropped so many points at home. It really, really poor. What's this? Mike, I was surprised at how flat Chelsea went. We had plenty of comedy defending left in us. If only you'd pressed us. Now watch Man United. Yeah, obviously Arsenal fan. I mean, I have to say, I was surprised at how poor the performance was tonight. I really wasn't expecting that at all. I just don't know. I really don't know. But the fact that Arsenal were on the back of 3 consecutive defeats made this one even worse, really. And the fact we'd actually been in good form, 3 on the spin, Madrid, Southampton, and Palace making a cup final as well. We thought, well, let's keep the momentum going. It just wasn't there. I mean, George, the penalty, Azpilicueta, penalty for you? I mean, it was terrible defending, if we're being honest, wasn't it? I mean, what was he doing?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Looking back at it, they have a hold over each other. I think he uses his body very, very well to kind of get Azpilicueta in trouble a little bit. He has his arm tucked underneath him and is almost using the force to just hold on to him. But
you're taking a big risk.
It's a penalty. I mean, he's got hold of him. He's not making any attempt to get the ball whatsoever. I know it's a tussle, but ultimately, if the player goes down and you've made no attempt to win a ball, you're in trouble. What I will say about Arsenal tonight is Arteta in these big games, he seems to get the better of Chelsea quite a lot.
Mate, I think they've won 3 times in a row at Stamford Bridge.
Yeah, so as much as I think Arsenal are a work in progress, I think Arteta is slightly undervalued as a coach because I still think we gave them the win tonight. Don't get me wrong; they weren't outstanding today, but this isn't a freak result. I mean, he has shown this before. So
I'm just gonna, I mean, do you know what, mate? I think the perfect way to sum it up is that that was one of the most Chelsea things ever tonight, and this was one of the most Arsenal things. The fact that Arsenal can lose 3 in a row, come to Stamford Bridge and score 4. And but I mean, Tuchel saying on Sky, we scored 5 goals and lost 4-2. That's easy. 3 own goals, 2 regular goals for us, and 1 for Arsenal. That makes it 4-2. So I think he's just alluding to the fact that essentially we gifted them 3 goals, basically. And that's what we said. That's what we said. And it's so disappointing. It really, really is. I mean, mate, before we move into the ratings quickly, what did you think of the altercation at the end between Azpilicueta and that fan? I mean, I don't know if it's much. I don't know if there's much to it or anything, but I mean, obviously, didn't take too kindly to something that he said. I mean, sort of much of a nothing in that.
I don't know what was said. I thought he was going to go over to give someone his shirt, but then obviously there must have been something that he was saying during the match towards Azpilicueta. But I quite like it, to be honest. I think as a captain, it's good to see someone going up to a fan and. There was either saying, look, we're trying our best, and the fans, not had it, basically slating him all game, or, I don't know what was said, but I like to see the passion. I mean, again, you watch United yesterday, all just walking off, no one gives a toss.
It's unacceptable.
Yeah, I personally don't mind that at all.
I mean, to be fair, as a fan, if you're abusing someone, these guys suddenly shit themselves, and the players actually might come over and confront them. If you're abusing someone for 90 minutes, or you're abusing them at the end of a match, well, what do you expect? Well, you expect them just not to come over, and then you shit yourself when they come over. It's honestly it is football's one of those things where fans act surprised when players react to any abuse that they get given, and they give it back and they can't take it. It's honestly, it's mad. I don't get that at all. But, mate, let's move into the ratings. And I don't think there's going to be many high numbers on this one at all. Mate, you can kick it off. Mendy in goal. This was poor from Mendy tonight. I mean, it's hard to give him a high rating because he shipped 4. But, it wasn't good, was it, mate, at all?
No, decision-making was poor. You can't really blame him for many of the goals. But I think even on the first one, he could have made himself a little bit bigger. But I mean, you can't give a high rating to someone who's shipped 4, even though it's not necessarily his fault. I'd be struggling to give him anything above a 3. I really would.
Yeah, mate. I was going to say I was thinking a 3.5, but I think a 3. I think a 3 is right, mate. I mean, mate, obviously he's the number 1 goalkeeper for us. I mean, any concerns that his form in the recent games has been awful? Real Madrid at home, Brentford at home and this one. I mean, is that a concern for you, or just like it's kind of to be expected when you've been performing so long at such a high level?
Well, it happens as a goalkeeper, doesn't it? And the keepers are only as good as what the back four protect him. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, I think we've got two fantastic goalkeepers, and Mendy has been brilliant for us. So I'm not gonna come and slate him. I have always said I'm not overwhelmed with him as a shot stopper. I don't think he's as good as Petr Cech was. I don't think there's much between him and Kepa, but I can't slate him. I mean, he's been unbelievable in some of the biggest games, and you can forgive him for these moments.
Yeah, for sure. Moving on to Reece James, then playing at right centre back. We said, he's good there, but it does harm us in terms of his attacking threat, which is major for us. Is kind of thwarted when he plays there. What did you make of him tonight, mate? Obviously, part of a back line that did ship four. In the second half, him and Aspie did swap positions, but didn't really make much difference. I'll probably say he was the best of those three playing in that back three. But it was kind of average from James tonight, wasn't it? I guess I'm kind of struggling to give him more than a 5 or a 5.5, really, mate.
Yeah, and I'm just so confused because you think as a coach, if you're going to play James, well, certainly if you're going to start Lukaku, your instructions to James would be to bomb forward and get the crosses in.
Yeah.
So I really don't understand why he's playing in that tucked in position and why he's not being encouraged to get beyond the fullback and cross balls in, because Lukaku would have loved that tonight against, with his physicality against the defence. I just don't understand why he was playing in that position and why he wasn't encouraged to do that. So I think, yeah, he didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't particularly show his best performance tonight. So again, I thought it was a 5, an average.
I think a 5 at best. I don't think you can give too higher marks for someone that ultimately was part of a backline that shipped in 4 goals. Christensen, mate, played a half, glaring error for the goal, really poor that. Other than that, that was a terrible mistake. This was an awful 45 minutes from Christensen, mate. I've got to be honest. We know he's signed for Barcelona. It's just not been announced yet. His head's on the Barcelona beach. He doesn't want to be here. This was awful, mate. I'm struggling to give him more than a 2.
I feel for him because we were only on this show, a couple of months ago,
praising him. Yeah,
even last year, and we said he was outstanding. Unfortunately, he just has this in his game. We've seen it before, even under Frank Lampard, that red card against Liverpool.
Yeah,
he has those errors.
When he thought he was playing the Six Nations, mate, he fucking just rugby tackled him down.
Yeah, and tonight, unfortunately, as a centre back, I think it's probably the easiest position to make a mistake in it, and it's costly. You can play awful up front and no one notices, but you make a mistake like that, it's very hard to recover in a game of football because all you're thinking about is that mistake. And as professional as he is, I think, his head's just been turned to a move and potentially a new challenge. And I still think he's a great footballer on his day, but that's the key, 100%. Being on his day. And tonight he just wasn't there.
I think a 2's fair. I've gone with a 2.
So I can't give him what he was. Well, he only played a half. I mean, he was
Malang Sarr.
Oh God, he was dreadful.
He was dreadful. Do you know what? As I said before, Sarr, when we signed him, by all means, he was going to be one of those that went out on loan. He'd go out on several loans and we'd sell him on for a profit, having signed him on a free. Injuries and circumstances, we've had to use him on a lot of occasions, more than we would have expected. That's for sure. And he's actually been quite useful sometimes. Let's be fair. He's put in some good performances when he's been called upon. Tonight was absolutely awful. He was just all over the place. One of the worst performances from a Chelsea defender in a long time. Really, really poor. Not helping Alonso at all on that left-hand side. Was he worse than Christensen? Christensen only played a half, but I don't know if Sarr was worse or not, but I don't know if he was any better, to be honest. I'm probably thinking a 2 again, mate. What did you make of Sarr? Just everything that could have gone wrong went wrong for him.
I think Christensen is Chelsea quality. I don't think Sarr is. I really don't. I watch him and I think he's so one-footed, always checking back. Doesn't have the bravery to take on the ball and carry it. And I think he's just got away with 2 very good performances against Spurs in the Cup, and since then has just been kind of trusted to play these odd games, and it's difficult being, again, centre back and coming into games where you haven't played, and that showed tonight. I know he's got to deal with Saka on that side, who's been in great form for Arsenal, and it's not easy when you've got no backup on that side with Alonso and no Rudiger. But I don't see where he progresses in this Chelsea side other than just being a fill-in player. And
he doesn't, mate.
Concerned.
He doesn't. At the end of the day, that's the only reason he's playing, because he's a fill-in player because of injuries and what's going on. He'll be sold this summer, or he'll go out on loan for sure. I don't envisage Sarr being part of the squad next season. That's for sure. Mate, do you think a 2's fair?
Yeah, I can't. He wasn't any better or any worse than Christensen, so
no. Moving on to the fullbacks then. Mixed bag from Nketiah. Obviously, takes the goal well. Terrible defending for the corner. And he's part of a back line again that shipped 4. I don't think this was that great from Nketiah tonight. I think the goal probably covered up what was a distinctly average to poor performance from him.
Yeah, well, this is the Aspie we've got at the moment. He's a Jekyll and Hyde character. He's our club captain, and we love him for those bits where he, eggs on the players and gets involved, and even comes up with getting in the box to try and score for the team. But then we've got the issue of his age and can't keep up with the pace, and his defending's sloppy at times. And we have seen the best of Azpilicueta now, and it's behind him. And yes, got a goal, but his job on the pitch is to defend, and we've shipped 4 again with him being in the team. So as much as I love him, and I think he's an absolute club legend, he's another one that I'd have a huge asterisk over come the end of the season as to whether we move on past him or not.
I totally agree, mate. Ultimately, that decision will be down to him, and rightly so, for the service that he's put in for the club now. But
4 or 5?
He'd be a valuable member of the squad, but he can't be playing week in, week out like he is at the moment. He just can't. No. He hasn't got it in him anymore. Do you know what, mate? I'll probably would have given him a 3, but the fact he scored, but probably pushes it up to what do you reckon, 3.5 or 4?
I'd give him 4. I don't think he was.
Yeah, I was going to give him the 4. Tell you someone that won't be getting a 4 is Alonso. I mean, Alonso's put in. And again, you say Jekyll and Hyde for Aspie, mate. It's the same with Alonso. Puts up worldie in the Carabao Cup final, was superb in the Bernabeu, and then he was okay against Palace, and then tonight he was awful. Like I don't think it helps that he didn't have Rudiger behind him. I think Alonso was a lot more confident when Rudiger's playing that left side, but Alonso was awful tonight. George, very much Jekyll and Hyde character. Don't know what you're going to get. In what I will say, in fairness to him, he does have top performances in his locker, but we don't see him too often. And we need to remember, he's not first choice at Chelsea. He's playing out of necessity because we haven't got anyone else to play there. So I think we also need to take that into account. But ultimately, we're judging his performances on the pitch, and we've praised him when he's done well recently. Awful tonight, wasn't he?
Yeah, and this is the Alonso that we all know is in his locker, getting turned far too easily, overcommitting in the box, just getting turned on a sixpence to allow players to hit the bar line and put balls back, not quick enough to get back. There's definitely an element of exhaustion there where he's being asked to play every single game, and big games as well that have come up recently with the huge game at Real Madrid asking to play, pretty much an attacking fullback role. But you make a great point, mate. People almost forget that Chilwell's even at the club. And I think be careful what you wish for, because as a second choice left back, I think he's one of the best in the league. But it's just the fact that he's not a good enough starting left back for Chelsea to going forwards if we want to compete for league titles. Yeah. So as much as I don't think he's a starter, I think he's still a good enough left back to be in the squad next season.
I'd go along with that, mate. I think for sure, like if he's going to play maybe 10, 15 league games a season or whatever, or something, that's not too bad. But I think if we can replace him with someone younger and maybe someone with a bit more ability, then maybe we'll look to do that. But I don't think it's a necessity in Chelsea's planning for the summer. But in terms of a rating, mate, I mean, I don't think he was as bad as Christensen. Do you think he was the same as Christensen and Sarr, or do we think worse? I'd say probably, I'd say 2.5. I think Sarr and Christensen were worse than him tonight. What would you reckon?
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
they're all pretty shocking on, particularly that left hand side. But yeah, I
That
can't.
left hand side was dreadful.
Yeah.
Moving into midfield, then, mate. Let's rattle through these. Kante. Uh, I thought he was shocking tonight. I really do, mate. I know you think that it didn't help having Loftus-Cheek alongside him, but I think we're witnessing, and we've said it before, Kante is a world-class player, but this season, I think we're starting to see a decline. He's still got good performances in him, but the consistency is not there at all. You knew with Kante, you get a 7 out of or 8 out of 10 every week. Now, Kante, you get one good game in maybe 5 or 6 now. I mean, George, would you agree that we're starting to see I can't get my words out, the decline of Kante?
Well, it was probably one of my sound bites very early on in the show this season when I said, he had a poor performance at the very beginning of the season. And I said, I think we're seeing the beginning of the end, and then he went on an unreal run.
Yeah.
So I might just say it again. So he then turns up and wins us the FA Cup. But look, I have a different stance on it. I know you said he was poor tonight, but I really do think, again, at the top of the show, I went about team selection and marrying pairs on the pitch, and I think in the middle of the park in such a key position, I think almost Kante takes too much responsibility of doing all the jobs when he plays with Loftus-Cheek, because I don't think he trusts him to do the things that he's supposed to do, and he gets too involved in trying to track back, trying to win balls, trying to go forwards, trying to create. When if he's got someone like a Kovacic there, I think he just does his job and his job only. But yeah, he set like you said, mate. He sets the bar because of his high standards that he set previously, and if you're judging him on his own performance alone, it was very poor tonight.
Yeah, there's decisions to be made. I mean, I wouldn't have started Jorginho tonight, but Kante is obviously out of contract at the end of next season, as is Jorginho. We've got big decisions to make in the midfield. We've got Gallagher coming back, Gilmour potentially coming back. Will Loftus-Cheek stay? Jorginho and Kante, we can't both offer them new contracts. Absolutely not, given their age. Kante probably would get more money than Jorginho would, but out of the two, I'm probably still keeping Kante around the club for a bit longer over Jorginho. No disrespect to Jorginho, but I think Kante's a better player and probably can offer us more on the pitch. But I think he's going to be one of those, George, that the days for me of Kante being a shoe-in to start every game, they're long gone, mate, for me. I really do think that. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but for me now, his influence on this team and his performance levels over this course of this season, he shouldn't be starting every week.
Well, mate, I don't disagree, and I think you've made a really good point that this is a real pivotal moment for Chelsea, because he's a big player and he's done so much for us. But sometimes you've got to think forwards, and with the players coming back, particularly Gallagher, Loftus-Cheek getting improving a bit more. Kovacic, obviously a shoe-in. We're
gonna sign a midfield player in the window. Tchouaméni, obviously Declan Rice rumours don't go away, but midfield is by all means like a number one priority for Chelsea in the window. So someone's got to be moved on. A minimum of one.
Yeah, and we're pretty much agreed that Jorginho should be one of those. But then I think Kante's next in line, mate. I really do, unless he's just honestly, not going to trust.
I said a while ago, and it wasn't very popular with people. I said that I wouldn't renew Kante or Jorginho at all.
Yeah, I remember you saying that.
With Conor Gallagher coming back, Gilmour potentially coming back, with a Tchouaméni or a Rice coming in or another. I think it's time, as you say, mate. We've got to be ruthless, and we've got to take big decisions and move players on and rebuild. And the midfield area needs rebuilding. It really does. As RD said, I keep Kante over Jorginho for sure. But honestly, mate, I think it's time to move both of them on. I really do.
It's definitely one to watch for sure. I think I wouldn't be hugely surprised, because we can't just rely on saying, oh well, it's Kante, so let's keep him. We've got to look forwards, and being Chelsea, you'd be surprised if Chelsea make a bold statement to start, say, a Conor Gallagher over Kante next season. But I think you're right, mate. I think you've made a good shout, and it's one that might not be popular, but we might see that happen next season, and you can say, I told you so.
Yeah, well, certainly so. But anyway, back to a rating for Kante, mate. I thought it was below average tonight. Do you think a 4? I think a 4 is fair.
Yeah, I think a 4 is fair. I think he was really poor tonight. I really do.
Moving on to Loftus-Cheek then, in a bit of a purple patch of form, 2 great games against Southampton, was really good, changed the game when he came on for the injured Kovacic in the FA Cup semi-final, getting his goal. Rewarded with a start. What did you make of him tonight? I didn't think he was amazing, but I didn't think he was awful by any means. Set up the Werner goal, I suppose you could say. Energy around the pitch. What did you make of him? Not one of his best displays compared to the last few games, but not bad. I mean, I think he was above average, but I'm probably looking at maybe a 5.5 or a 6 for Loftus-Cheek. Didn't think he was awful.
No, he wasn't awful, and it's better, and you've got to give him time to bed in. You know, a player that hasn't started for Chelsea in his whole career, really, other than Sarri for the tail end of his tenure. He deserved his starting place tonight. He's been in good form, outstanding at the Bernabeu, really, really good in the FA Cup game. And as Chelsea fans, we love him. We love him. He's so unique in his stature and his build and the way he carries the ball. And there's definitely potential and talent there, but we do need to now see that, the fruits of that labour of him playing. And I think tonight, giving a more commanding role, he was suspect, but that's part of the learning process. But he wasn't the worst pitch on there by a long shot.
No, do you think a 6 is fair? Or do you think that's too high?
I was going to give him a 5.5, but I'd settle for 6. I don't think he was the worst.
No, let's go with the 6. Right, mate. Moving on to the front 3 then. Let's start with Mason Mount. Been in superb form since he cut his hair, got his buzz cut. He's had 2 goals against Southampton, goal against Madrid, goal against Palace in the semi-final, an assist tonight. I think I think that's now 27 goal and assist contributions this season. Phenomenal season, and supposedly he's having a bad season. So I hate to see how good a good season is going to be. Contributes an assist tonight, obviously for Nketiah. Outside of that, George, I don't think this was that great from Mason Mount tonight. By no means terrible, but compared to the last few games, the output wasn't quite the same. Obviously gets an assist, but just overall play in general, I don't think he was terrible, but it was a quiet evening for him, I have to say.
Well, you just want more from a player like Mount. You look at what Smith Rowe produced tonight. The way he plays and the confidence, and you just think Mount's twice the player that Smith Rowe is. And I know, it's a team performance. So if the team's not playing well, obviously you can't expect individuals to shine. But that's when he does need to shine in games like that, where we need something out of nothing. We saw it time and time again from a player like Eden Hazard, for example. Play poorly, get something out of nothing. But look, you know me personally. You know my position on Mount. I start him every game for his work rate, for his creativity, and again, he was not the worst player on that pitch. So I would give him a similar rating to Loftus-Cheek, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think a 6. I think a 6 is fair as well. Let's move on to Timo Werner then. Obviously, scored tonight, continued his good run of form. Let's quickly bring this up. I expected a lot more forward runs and forward passing play from Ruben. Thought he played within himself. I think that's fair. I think that's something that's been levelled at Ruben a number of occasions this season, that there's so much ability there. Tuchel said it himself. He's obviously phenomenal in training. He wants everyone in the stadium to see it. And maybe too many times he does play within himself, but he's definitely improved a lot these last few games. And we've seen the sort of the level that we need from Ruben on a consistent basis. But moving on to Werner, we spoke about him earlier in the stream, mate. His luck seems to be changing a little bit. The luck that he wasn't getting at all, he got for his goal deflected. I thought, all right, his passing wasn't great, but his dribbling was looked better, taking players on. Seems to have a bit more confidence about him. What did you make of his performance tonight?
I thought he was positive, mate. You got a lot of encouragement from the fans, and there was a moment where he had a little dribble in the middle of the park where he beat 2 or 3 players, just things that he wouldn't do normally. And you talk about players playing within themselves. Well, I mean, Werner's been like that ever since he joined. Just doesn't have the confidence, even in the things he does well, like his pace. I mean, just knock it. If you haven't got a good touch, just knock it past him. He's got the pace to beat them, and we're seeing a little bit more of that as he's coming into it. I mean, fantastic performance again in the Champions League, and I thought he played well tonight. I do. I think again the work rate was good. There's still issues there, obviously, with the finishing, but he does his timing of runs are good. Again, it's been the story of the season, but you just want more. If they're going to have quiet games, score one. Even if you don't do anything else in the game, score one, create a decent opportunity. We see little flashes, but it's not enough consistently. But I still am a huge advocate of his, and I want him to stay because I do believe he's got something to offer if it pulls off.
Yeah, no, I think that's a fair assessment. I mean, personally, for me, I still don't think we should let this sort of run of 3 or 4 games blind the fact that over the course of the best part of 2 seasons, it's not been good enough. And there's not really evidence to suggest that he's suddenly going to become the player that we signed. Obviously, these last 4 games have been a massive improvement, but I don't think we should let it cloud over the overall picture. And ultimately, for me, if an offer came in the summer, I think we'd have to strongly consider it. There's no room for sentiment in football. He's a nice guy, or like the fans like him, etc. But ultimately, 10 goals in the Premier League over what is best part of 2 seasons. I know he's done better in the Champions League, but for someone that costs £50 million, is it on 270k a week? That's not value for money in my book. I think the vast majority of fans would agree with that. If he, as RD says in the chat, if Werner scores a goal in the FA Cup final, wins us the cup, maybe it'll change. But I think now, between now and the end of the season, he needs to carry on. He needs to contribute with more goals, and he could potentially change people's minds. But I think ultimately, for me, even though he's done better these last few games, I'd still be moving him on this summer, in my opinion. But back to a rating for tonight, George, better or worse than Mount? Do you think a 6.5 is fair for Werner, or would you go 7?
No, I wouldn't. I don't think anyone got 7 tonight. I'd probably say level par.
Level par, would you go 6 along with Mount?
Yeah, maybe what, a 0.5 for the goal.
Let's give him a 0.5. All right, mate, let's move on to Lukaku, because we'll spend hours talking about him, but we won't. We'll keep it brief. I've been championing Lukaku. I agree with what you said tonight, mate, actually, that if you're going to start Lukaku, why start James at right centre-back? Like, the whole thing with the Lukaku is me balls into the box, and if the wing-backs had been fit, it might have been a different story. Why play James at right centre-back when you're playing Lukaku? Because you want to get balls into the box, and Aspie doesn't get balls into the box to get forward like Reece James. So I thought that was a bit odd. But having said that, Lukaku, the big opportunity tonight, for me, it's the lack of effort and the body language that is really concerning. Like, it just wasn't good enough tonight. I think at one point, Sky put a graphic up. He had the fewest touches on the pitch, along with Ramsdale, 18. A few moments where he linked up well with Werner for a couple of opportunities. But other than that, it was just nothing again. And this is a big concern now. I know it's not been a season yet, but, it's not worked out what anyone thought it was going to work out like. And it's coming up to the summer, and it's going to be a big problem. It's going to be an issue what we do here. We're not going to get anywhere near as much money for him as we signed him for. Do we keep him? But for me, the biggest thing was the attitude, the application. And maybe if he knew this was how he plays and this was his skill set, and we weren't going to adapt, or we weren't going to play to it, why did we sign him in the first place? But I mean, in terms of tonight, George, much of the same. It wasn't his fault we lost. Let's make that clear. But in terms of a performance from a £97.5 million centre forward, it wasn't good enough. It's as simple as that. And it's a all too familiar story for Lukaku this season.
Yeah, I've got to say, mate, I'm in that 1% because I really did not agree. I know we had to act, and obviously Tuchel agreed to bring him in, and you can't blame him for that because we had to go for it. But I just don't think he's world class at all. I'm sorry, but yeah, I agree with the James thing. Ironically, it was actually James who assisted his goal away at Arsenal.
Yeah.
So I don't know why you don't play to his strengths, particularly with his aerial threat against Arsenal. I mean, we did it with Drogba for years, but I listen to a lot of the football podcasts, and they say, okay, if you're not getting the service, go and look for the ball. I mean, there's no excuses for the lack of touches as a striker. He could do what Kane does, come onto the halfway line, get the ball. I know that's not his game, but get involved in the game. Just do something. Make the runs. Come 10 yards back and just spin off the defender, or just get the ball under control. And I think 10, 15 years ago, he's the perfect striker. I just think he's a bit old-fashioned, where we don't play football. Isn't played this way anymore, where you play direct balls pinging from the centre back all the way to the centre forward, and they just take a touch and score. And I just think when he does play, all the players around him think we've got to get the ball into him, and we can't have any other ideas. And unfortunately, again, he starts tonight and we haven't performed. And I just think we're better without him. I really do. And if it was me, I think Chelsea need to not have him as a number 9 to move on.
It's a big decision to make. Ultimately, like, you're essentially going to take a hit on your club record signing after one season. We're at best, if we got £60 million for him, you take it straight. The club would probably accept that straight away now. We're not going to get anywhere near what we paid for him. Okay, it's fine to say get rid of him. I understand that, but it's never as simple as just get rid of someone. You got to think, right, we need to we need another player to fill that gap in the squad. You can't just sell him and bring no one in. So, like, what's the alternatives here at the moment? All right, we get rid of him. Who do we bring in over the summer? We haven't even got an owner at the moment. We don't know how much money is going to be available from this new owner, whoever it ends up being. Like, there are other areas that we need to strengthen big time. We could be about to lose 3 defenders on free transfers. Midfield needs addressing, as we've discussed just now. Like, what if we all right, get rid of Lukaku? Who do we bring in? What do we do? Like, there's always more complex than just get rid of him. Do you know what I mean? Like, I agree with you. He's not been good enough this season. It's been really, really poor, 100%. But it's never as easy as just get rid of him, because then what happens?
No, look, and I agree, and that's why I'm not an owner of a football club, because it's not even players on long contracts. It's, look at Paul Pogba at Manchester United. It's not easy just to say he's not good enough, let's get rid of him. I mean, who's even going to pay 40 million for Lukaku at the moment? And then what Chelsea don't know, like you said, what the position is with the ownership and how much money we've got to spend and how many players we're going to lose. And as poor as he's been, we need to keep what we have at the moment. Before we sell anyone, we need to figure out who's owning the club and how much money we've got. And I know you still believe that next season is another season. He could draw a line under it and he could come good with a bit more, a change of system. But I don't know. I really don't know at the moment. But as of now, I just think he just needs to get away. The season needs to finish, and either the system has to change or his attitude needs to change. Yeah,
he needs. For me, mate, the best thing that can happen for Lukaku is the season ends now, and he just gets away, goes on holiday, regroups, comes back for pre-season is going to be crucial for Lukaku. If he stays and we don't sell him, pre-season is going to be so important. If he comes back looking fit, looking sharp, looking ready, then it could be different. But for me personally, I'd keep him just because, one, we're going to take a massive financial hit, and sometimes you have to do that. But also, two, what are the other alternatives? I'm not saying he should start every week, but if you can get him like playing reasonably well, it's a good option to have in the squad. So I personally would keep him. But having said that, it could, if an offer comes in, then the club could be very tempted to act. But I mean, in terms of tonight, George, awful, mate. Really. I mean, what do you think? Was he worse than Christensen and Sarr? Would you just give him a 2? Are we talking worse than Alonso? Do we think 3? What do we reckon? Or on a par?
I think on a par, because if you're thinking about his own job to do, he's not done anything. He's not the worst player out there. But
what do you reckon? 2.5 or 2 or 3?
I'll go 2.5. I'll go in the middle.
Let's go in the middle, 2.5. Yeah, I mean, obviously, we won't bother with Havertz or Ziyech. They barely played. Thiago Silva did play a half, but yeah, by his high standards, not so good at all. I mean, those are our ratings, guys. As I said, before we round out the stream, if you're watching, there's quite a few of you watching tonight, which is great. Appreciate all the support, all the interactions in the chat. Please make sure you smash like on the video if you haven't done already. It takes you seconds. If you're watching now and you haven't subscribed, please do click that subscribe button. It really helps us out. And George, obviously, moving away very briefly to round out the stream then. We play again on Sunday. Massive game against West Ham. Another London derby. There's got to be a big improvement, goes without saying.
Yeah, it's not going to be easy, particularly in the form and the drive that West Ham have got at the moment, our home form as well. I don't know. I'm probably going to need some time for a prediction, but we need to put this one behind us. Again, it is difficult because we haven't got a lot to play for, bar a disaster. We're going to finish top 4, but we need to go we have to have some sort of momentum going into that game against Liverpool for the cup final, which is ultimately what our season is now based on. So can't get any worse than that, surely.
I mate, you say that, but mate, you never know with Chelsea. Tonight was awful. I mean, the last 2 Premier League games at home have been dreadful. We've shipped 4 in both of them. Back-to-back league games, we've conceded 4 goals. It's not good enough. I hope maybe players' day off tomorrow, get back into it. But I just worry about our home form big time because, as you say, if we go behind in a game, we're fucked. We cannot break down teams very well at all. So something's really got to change in that regard. West Ham on Sunday, not going to be easy. As you say, George, I think, to be honest, mate, the season now is the FA Cup final. We need another 3 wins to secure the top 4. I'm not saying we're going to not get those, but we need to be careful. We can't be dropping too many more points because suddenly we could be in a situation where we're like, fuck, we could get to the last couple of league games in the season and the top 4 still not be secured. I know we laugh about, Spurs, United, Arsenal all dropping points going for that 4th place. We need to be careful that we don't drop any more points and get sucked back into it. I know that's like a worst case scenario, but these things do happen, don't they? We've seen it before with Chelsea.
Well, mate, we were lucky last season. I mean, we lost the last game of the season, which we needed to win. And luckily, can't remember, it was Spurs Leicester, was it?
Yeah.
And, they did us a favour because otherwise we weren't qualifying. So it can happen. I still think we've got enough in the bag to, if you just look at the away form alone, let's say we win our away games, that's enough. We've still got Watford at home to play. Should win that.
Yeah, I think we've got Wolves at home as well.
Yeah, I mean the home form's not been great, but you'd still expect Chelsea to get enough points. Look, I don't think we're going to finish outside the top 4. I think we've done enough work in the season to finish that, and you have a 4th spot, but it's all about momentum going into the cup final because
we need to enter in good form.
Yeah.
I mean, it is what it is. A very disappointing night. Guys, by the way, there's 140 of you watching right now. So thanks for that. Really appreciate it. Guys, make sure you smash a like on this video. Please do subscribe to the channel. I know there's going to be people that are watching now that haven't subscribed. So please do click that subscribe button. Really helps us out. We come and do this, rain or shine, whatever the result is, a humiliating defeat, a great win, whatever it may be. Let's quickly bring this up before we round out. Chelsea have a really mistake-prone defence. In recent weeks, yes. On the whole, no. But yeah, I'd agree that at the moment, it's not been good in recent weeks. That's for sure. But I mean, George, ultimately a disappointing night at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea shipped 4 goals to Arsenal, lose 4-2 at the Bridge. Charity FC back in full motion. We go again on Sunday against West Ham, another London derby. Maybe Declan Rice's audition at Stamford Bridge. Who knows? But yeah, not good for tonight. George, thanks so much for your time as always, mate. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in live. Thank you for watching. As always, keep the faith, up the Chelsea, and we'll be back with a West Ham match preview on Friday or Saturday. So until then, take care. Thanks a lot.